So the final weeks of the season coming up for the ATP and the WTA Finals starting in a week. We have it locked in now, the WTA Finals Race. And on the men's side of things, we're starting to get a bit of a shape as well to see who's going to play in Turin. Let's go have a look at, though, who won last week, because we had some big tournaments too. All right, we'll start on the ladies' side of things. And in Tokyo, we had Bencic beating Noskova in the final. That was a WTA 500 event in straight sets there for Bencic. And both players got a boost in the rankings. And over in China, we had Li beating Sun in the final in straight sets as well. And also Sun getting a very good boost in the rankings as well, which we'll find out in a second. Over on the men's side of things, we had two indoor hardcourt events. One in Basel, which Fonseca, winning the biggest trophy of his career so far, beating Rybakina in the final in straight sets. And then in Vienna, the really important final, Sinner versus Zverev. Sinner wins in 3 sets, goes down to the wire, 7-5 in the third. Zverev had his chances as well. There was, opportunity there to cause the big upset, but Sinner was too good in the end. But it really did help Zverev this week getting to the final. All right, let's go to the players that went up in the rankings on the WTA outside the top 10. Bencic, she goes back to number 11 in the world, which 12 months ago, she was like 500 in the world. So huge 12 months for her, almost back in that top 10. Noskova, she's at a career high number 13 in the world, 4 spots higher than last week. And Sun, she goes up to 88 in the world, back in the top 100, 28 spots higher than last week after making the final in China. So some really important boosts in the rankings for those players. Players who dropped down the rankings outside the top 10, we had Zhang. She dropped down to number 15 in the world, 4 spots lower than last week. And of course, she did make the finals of the WTA Finals last year, so she will drop down further before the season ends. Krejcikova also dropping down the rankings, 28 spots to number 64 in the world. And Bolter, she dropped down 16 spots to number 79 in the world. So some familiar names there, dropping down the rankings. Over on the men's side of things, we had Fokina. He goes up to a career high number 15 in the world, 3 spots higher than last week after making the final in Basel. Fonseca, he goes up 18 spots to 28 in the world, a career high for him as well after winning in Basel. And Munar, he had a really good week last week and goes up to number 36 in the world, which is 6 spots higher than last week. So players that played really well in these 500 events outside the top 10, it was worth a lot of points for them, and they all got a good boost. Players that dropped down, though, outside the top 10. Feast, he dropped down 7 spots, number 37. Pirikar, after losing first round to Fonseca in Basel, losing all the points that he won last year from the tournament, goes down 23 spots to 56. And Goffin, he drops down 18 spots, number 122, also losing a lot of points from this time last year. So 12 months ago, we were getting really excited about the French players, but unfortunately, they're starting to drop back a little bit due to injury and also due to some poor form. Okay, let's go look at the WTA rankings for this week, because we had some very interesting changes. Nothing at the top, though, with Sabalenka still at number 1 and Swiatek at 2. Gauff comes in at 3 with Anisimova at 4. Pegula stays at 5. But Paolini, she dropped down 2 spots to number 8, making way for Rybakina to go up to number 6. Keys went up to number 7. Andreeva stays at 9. And Andreeva at number 10 for now. But of course, with the WTA Finals coming up, the top 8 can still shuffle around a bit because there's a lot of points on the line, especially when you're getting the wins. If you win a match in the WTA Finals, you get 200 points. So every match next week is going to be really important when we get to the WTA Finals. Let's go to the final standings for the race to the finals, because it came down to the last week, which is so impressive. Of course, we had Sabalenka, Swiatek, Gauff, Anisimova, Pegula, Keys, and Paolini all qualified. But with a change in the rankings, Rybakina went up to number 6 after playing really well in Tokyo, getting to the semifinals was what she needed to do. Keys went down to number 7, Paolini went down to number 8, and Andreeva loses out and drops down to number 9 with Andreeva coming in at number 10. So, as you can see there by the points, only 6 points between Andreeva and Paolini for Andreeva to qualify. So it was such a competitive year. Somebody who has over 4,000 points and doesn't qualify, you know it was a competitive season. And Andreeva's so unlucky to miss out. Now, she still could come in as an alternate. Of course, if somebody withdraws during the tournament, she could come in and play a match. But so unfortunate for her, because she did have a great year. She had a very good start to the year as well. But she will be playing the doubles in Riyadh. So maybe she will get a second chance, at least to play the doubles and perform there in the WTA Finals. But man, what a crazy race the finals has been this year. All right, let's go to the men's side of things. And we had no change at the top with Alcaraz still at number 1. Sinner still at number 2, but adding a lot of points to his total and closing the gap between him and Alcaraz. Zverev comes in at 3 with Fritz at 4. Djokovic at 5. Demonor, he goes up to number 6, pushing Shelton down to number 7. Musetti stays at number 8. But Draper and Rune are both dropping out of the top 10, making way for Rude and Auger-Aliassime, who jump into those last 2 spots. And of course, Draper and Rune won't be playing for the rest of the season, so FAA just getting some form at the right time. They both have played really well over the last couple of weeks and gaining those points to jump in that top 10 to finish the season. Over to the race to finals now, and it's looking pretty interesting. Unfortunately, it won't be as exciting as the women's tournament, it seems, where it came down to the last week and it was 1 spot up for grabs. But we have Alcaraz, Sinner, and Djokovic. They've all qualified. Zverev, he is also added to that, and he is also qualified for this ATP Finals 2025. Fritz, he's in at 5, with Shelton at 6, de Minaur at 7, Musetti at 8, Auger-Aliassime at 9, and Draper at number 10. Now, unfortunately, Auger-Aliassime last week was injured and had to retire through his match, so whether or not he can gain the points next week in Paris to get him into the ATP Finals and kick out Musetti or de Minaur, we'll find out. But next week, every day, we should start to see a lot of these players start to qualify. So there it is. That is the rankings for this week as we round out the season. Of course, the WTA Finals start next week. We'll get one more rankings update for the WTA, of course, after that. And then on the men's side of things, it's coming down to Paris. And then, of course, the week after that, we've got a couple of 250s. But really, Paris is the final event of the year for most of the guys. And we're going to find out who's going to play the ATP Finals by the end of next week, hopefully. So we'll see what happens. And we'll obviously do a ranking show once the ATP Finals is done, because there could be some changes to the rankings there as well. Still an opportunity for Sinner to overtake Alcaraz, but it's a very slim chance. He's going to have to do a lot right, and he's also going to have to hope that Alcaraz doesn't do so well. So we'll see whether or not there's that big change, but there it is. That is the ranking for this week. Let me know down in the comments below what's been the most surprising thing. Are you surprised that Andreeva didn't get in? You know, she was this close. Just so competitive on the WTA. There's just so many good players playing well multiple times throughout the year, and you had to do, you know, if she won one more match, it could have been the difference. So really, really interesting how that happens. But there it is. They're the rankings for this week. We'll see what happens next week when we start the WTA Finals.